Thank you, and let's get started. You know, I hope you've had a chance to enjoy the movie Lincoln. It's a movie worth mentioning tonight. Why was it so good, besides Mr. Spielberg and Daniel Day-Lewis? I think Lincoln captured the elevated dialogue of lawyers. For most of the historical characters were trained as lawyers, especially Lincoln himself. There is a magic mixture to being a really, really good lawyer and then judge. An alchemy that takes the leaden experiences of some unhappy disputants and churns out the golden threads of legal rules. We fill in the subsections and interlineate the paragraphs of the social contract. What was great about Lincoln the movie was to capture and make enthralling this difficult process of being really, really good at the law. But to do so for 20 years, 30 years, that's something special and not often encountered. And that's exactly what we have here tonight. A room full of folks who are really, really good at the law. And we're here to honor just two amongst us who excel even in this room full of champs. As dinner chair and chair of the litigation section, it is my honor to welcome you to our third Litigation Awards dinner. Like the inaugural dinner, it's a sellout. Tonight, we speak to themes we all know and that our honorees exemplify: intellectual quality, professional depth, and personal continuity. That is not very flashy stuff. But these traits distinguish the best judges and the most acclaimed lawyers in our large and sophisticated Los Angeles legal community. We honored them tonight, but as Christina and Marshall would be the first to tell you, we do so only to remind ourselves what we all strive for. United States District Court Judge Christina Snyder is a native Californian and a graduate of Stanford Law School. Christina was a well-known business litigator in Los Angeles at Wyman Boutzer and married another outstanding litigator, Mark Seltzer, with Sussman Godfrey. She served as the first woman president of Public Counsel and is a past director of Beverly Hills Bar. On the recommendation of Senators Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer, Christina was nominated to the federal bench by President Bill Clinton and has served with distinction since 1997. Marshall Grossman is a widely known and much heralded business and entertainment litigator. A lifelong resident of the Los Angeles area, Marshall's impressive practice is built on old school values. He believes in giving back as a past director of Beverly Hills Bar and its Bar Foundation, lecturing at alma mater USC Law School, and helping found the Association of Business Trial Lawyers. But it is to you whom I must thank for joining us tonight. For over 81 years, Beverly Hills Bar has chosen well. We are best known today not for 150 MCLE programs or tentpole dinners like tonight. Rather, we are known for our community, full of lawyers who pride themselves on the intellectual quality of their work, who daily exhibit their professional depth, and whose clients, friends, and colleagues benefit from their long personal continuity. It is your presence and your enthusiasm that make tonight so special. We thank Beverly Hills Bar CEO Mark Steinberg and his dedicated staff. Well, if you're clapping now, wait until you taste the dinner. It's fabulous. We thank the dinner committee and our many generous sponsors for their support and our past honorees for their wise advice. I would like to now introduce our honorary chair to begin the evening. Governor Pete Wilson served 2 full terms from 1991 to 1999 and now is a partner at Bingham in Los Angeles. A former Marine officer recruited out of Yale University ROTC, Pete went on to UC Berkeley School of Law and became one of California's youngest assemblymen. As mayor of San Diego, he led its transformation from a sleepy military town to a major hub of tourism and international trade. He was United States Senator for 8 years and cast the deciding vote to pass Ronald Reagan's budget in 1985, arriving in an ambulance right after an appendix operation. Amazing. Governor Wilson's personal leadership during the Northridge earthquake when he camped out on Highway 10 to ensure its speedy repair. His successful efforts to bring term limits to California and his Reagan-esque attention to the broadest themes of our social contract characterized a resourceful, fiscally conservative administration. Pete held elective office almost continually from 1967 to 1999. That's 32 years. Pete is one of the not too many governors to actually leave a legacy and to leave an entire state in better shape than when he took office. Please welcome Governor Pete Wilson.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. Are there any questions? That was generous to say the least. I feel as though I should simply stand up here and let you gaze upon me for a time. I am indeed honored to be the honorary chair. I must tell you that not too many years ago, I was invited by the Sacramento Barristers Association to come to their annual meeting, keynote it. I accepted that invitation, and I learned that in the audience were to be all of the members of the state Supreme Court. That is all but two. Interestingly, they were the only two that I had not appointed to either the court directly or to some inferior court before they were elevated. I could not resist when the day came, reminding them that they had a decision in case they'd forgotten. They were presented with a question as to whether or not the term limits legislation, you will recall it was an initiative measure that passed, and the question arose as to whether or not it imposed only an interval so that service could be continued after a two-term limit had been served, or whether it imposed a lifetime ban. Quite gratuitously, I thought they decided that it imposed a permanent prohibition. Remembering this, I reminded them of it as they were sitting there, and I said, so today's invitation affords me an opportunity to say something to you members of the court that I have been longing to say for many years. It's simply this: you ungrateful bastards. Tonight, by contrast, I come full of gratitude to the Beverly Hills Bar Association for doing something very important as well as very pleasurable. Tonight, we are gathered in what has become a great tradition of this great organization to recognize the exceptional professional and personal merit of two extraordinary people, Judge Christina Snyder and my colleague, Marshall Grossman. We can be very proud of them because they are worthy of this great tradition. It falls to others this evening who will formally introduce them to have the pleasure of recounting all of the many accolades that they have won, all of the awards, all of the remarkable achievements. I leave that to them, but I will simply say that I think we are fortunate to be so well served. In this community, which takes great pride in this organization, which makes a special point of recognizing exemplary conduct and exemplary professional achievement. We have tonight people who fully have earned all of that confidence. So I will simply say that I thank the Beverly Hills Bar Association for establishing this tradition. I thank them, and I am grateful both as a lawyer, as a citizen, perhaps most of all as someone who spent a good deal of time in office, either recommending federal judges to federal appointing authorities, or when I became governor, having the honor and responsibility of appointing state court judges. It is an important function. And I might say that the legal profession from which we draw exemplary members of not just the bench, or not just the bar, but the bench as well, is one of not just the most important, but one of the most fundamental functions. It is, after all, upon what we prize so greatly, the rule of law, which depends on the quality of people like our honorees this evening, without which the culture that we prize, that is frankly a rarity in too much of the world, would not be what it is. So my hat is off to the Beverly Hills Bar Association as well as to our honorees. I will simply, if you will indulge me, say a word or two about Marshall Grossman. We are very proud of Marshall. At Bingham McCutcheon, he is, as he has been described, a bet-the-company litigator, someone who has won plaudits, recognition all across the land. He is a man of great intellect. He is a man who has found time in his busy life to give to the community in many, many ways. He is a man of the highest ethics. He's an extraordinary human being. In fact, he's not perfect, no one is, but I must say that he comes fairly close. He does have one trait that some find disconcerting. He is an incorrigible smartass. And for many, the rule is nobody loves a smartass. It is not true. His lovely wife, Marlene, charming, gracious, and infinitely patient, has been his wife for 50 years. She does love a smartass. So, my friends, I thank you for the honor of being the chair of tonight's event, particularly since I did absolutely no work whatever. But I will say that it should be not just an honor for the honorees, but for all of the guests, all the people who prize the rule of law and think that we should celebrate it in high style. I agree. Enjoy.
Oh, we were very lucky to hear that. John Rubiner. Let me introduce Beverly Hills Bar President John Rubiner. John graduated from University of Illinois, where he was pound for pound one of the toughest wrestlers in the Midwest. After UCLA Law School, John was an assistant U.S. attorney here in Los Angeles and now a principal at Bird Morello. John is best known for complex business litigation, employment litigation, and white-collar criminal defense. John has climbed the long leadership ladder at Beverly Hills Bar Association and was also president of the Barristers, the bar's very active younger group. Please welcome John Rubiner.
Thank you, Jonathan. You and the litigation section, Jonathan, and our dinner committee have done another outstanding job helping put together tonight's dinner. More than 2 years ago, this dinner, this litigation awards section dinner, was just an idea. And now with our third dinner, it's becoming and became part of the fabric of our association. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you to the whole committee for your hard work and dedication to our bar. And this dinner sold out, and it should be, because we're here tonight honoring two giants of our community, Marshall Grossman and United States District Judge Christina Snyder. As you'll hear tonight, both of our honorees are here not only because of their distinguished legal work, but because of the example they set for our community and for our bar. I'm very honored to share the same podium with them tonight, and I look forward to hearing more about them as they're presented and from them when they're given their awards. I'm also honored to share the podium tonight with Governor Pete Wilson. On behalf of the Beverly Hills Bar Association, Governor Wilson, I thank you for coming here tonight and for taking time to help support us and support what we do here. I also want to thank our sponsors, the people whose names are appearing on the monitors and whose names you can see in the tribute book. These dinners don't come together by chance, and we really need and we thank and appreciate the support that our sponsors give to our bar. We have a number of judges here tonight, and I'm not going to identify all of them by name because, quite frankly, I'm worried about missing someone and hearing about it the next time I appear in front of them. But I am going to introduce some people. You'll hear more from them later, but I'd like to recognize Judge Richard Paez, who's here representing the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. There are many judges here tonight from the United States District Court for the Central District of California. And in particular, I want to recognize former Chief Judge Audrey Collins, who's here representing current Chief Judge George King, who could not be here tonight, but sends his regards, as well as all of the other judges from the Central District who joined us tonight. We have a number of magistrate judges here tonight from the Central District, and I'd like to recognize Chief Magistrate Judge Suzanne Siegel and all of the magistrate judges that are here. You'll hear more from him later, but we have Justice Norman Epstein of the Second District Court of Appeals, who's here to represent that court tonight. There's too many judges from the Los Angeles County Superior Court to name, but I particularly want to thank them for coming, as well as presiding Judge David Wesley, who's here tonight. I'm also honored that a number of my fellow bar presidents are here, in particular Pat Kelly, who's a member of our bar association, and also the current president of the State Bar of California. And our friend Dick Burge, who's president of the Los Angeles County Bar Association, is also here. We're fortunate to have with us tonight and you'll hear again from him, Dr. Max Nikias, president of the University of Southern California, as well as Robert Rasmussen, dean of the law school at the University of Southern California, and a former member of our bar's Board of Governors. I also want to recognize Hernan Vera, our good friend and the president and CEO of Public Counsel. Finally, I want to take a moment and thank our incredible bar staff. As I said, these events don't come together by magic. They come together by the hard work and dedication of our staff, which is one of the best bar staffs around. They help us to not only create events such as this, but to make sure they run smoothly and seamlessly. It's now my pleasure and honor to introduce my friend, the Beverly Hills Bar Association's Chief Executive Officer, Mark Steinberg. Yeah. Mark is the captain of this ship and makes sure that our staff lay team works well and that we are able to provide not only this event, but seamlessly present over 200 different events and programs every year. Mark?
Thank you, John, and thank you, John Stein, and your terrific litigation section and dinner committee for this evening's event. Thank you, Governor Wilson, for honoring us with your participation and for calling John Stein Mark. I appreciate that. We are delighted that you all are here to help the Beverly Hills Bar Association litigation section present its third Litigation Awards dinner. And as you've heard once or twice before, we're honoring United States District Court Judge Christina Snyder and renowned trial attorney Marshall Grossman. I want to thank our honorees' family members, their friends, their colleagues, and all of their distinguished guests for helping to make this evening so special. Thank you all for being here. The Beverly Hills Bar Association is proud of our 81 years and well-recognized history of activism and accomplishments, serving our members, leading our profession, and advocating for justice in our community. Our 80th anniversary year has indeed been momentous. Among other things, after 42 years on South Beverly Drive, just down the street, we built out and moved our bar center to the Rolex building on Wilshire Boulevard, even closer down the street. Thank you. Everyone who has visited, attended a program, or come to a meeting has expressed their pleasure and their pride in our new home. If you haven't been by to see it, please accept this as a genuine invitation to do so. Finally, as John so eloquently said, but I have to repeat, these productions don't happen by themselves. So in addition to the work of the Litigation Awards Dinner Committee, it is with deep appreciation and a lot of affection that I acknowledge the hard work and dedication of our amazing and incredible Beverly Hills Bar Association staff, many of whom you've seen here tonight, all of whom are staying for the dinner. Thank you. A wonderful program, along with the presentation of the awards, awaits us, but now I invite you to continue enjoying your delicious dinner, and we'll see you in a little while. Thank you.
We continue our evening themes of intellectual quality, professional depth, and personal continuity with a bevy of star presenters. They are all distinguished, and happy for us, they're all concise speakers. For Judge Snyder, we have noted Ninth Circuit Judge Richard Paez and the charming Chief Judge of the Central District Court, Audrey Collins. The Ronald M. George Award for Judicial Excellence will be handed to Judge Snyder by last year's honoree, California Presiding Judge Norm Epstein. For Marshall's introductions, we have the charismatic USC President, C.L. Max Nikias, and our personable California State Bar President, Pat Kelly. The Excellence in Advocacy Award will be presented to Marshall by last year's honoree, Tom Girardi. So let me introduce our first speaker. Rich Paez is a humble guy from Salt Lake City. Like California Supreme Justice Cruz Reynoso, who gave Richard his first job, Judge Paez is one example of what makes the United States great. Ninth Circuit Court Judge Richard Paez went to Brigham Young University and the UC Berkeley School of Law. He became a staff attorney with California Rural Legal Assistance, and then with Western Center on Law and Poverty, and then with Legal Aid Foundation. Obviously, he's a dedicated and principled man. He worked his way up the ladder at Legal Aid until he ran the place, and then became a municipal court judge. In 1994, President Bill Clinton seated him on the U.S. District Court downtown. President Clinton knew a good thing when he saw one, so he nominated Richard to the Ninth Circuit, not once, but twice. Judge Paez, for 4 years, suffered the slings and arrows of the Ninth Circuit judicial nomination process, and no doubt helped raise a heck of a lot of money for Senate races in the southern United States. Since then, Richard has served in Pasadena for 13 years with passion, intellectual distinction, and good common sense. Please welcome Judge Richard Paez.
Well, thank you for those kind remarks. I am thrilled and honored to be here tonight. I'm thrilled because I have a long-standing relationship with Judge Snyder, and it is so touching when she asked me if I would stand here tonight and say a few things about her. And I'm honored to be here with the Beverly Hills Bar Association and to be part of this group. It's a fantastic event and a wonderful evening. Judge Snyder truly has a distinguished career. And I know that for a variety of reasons. First, let me just say this. I didn't work with Judge Snyder in a law firm. I never worked with her day to day. But our experience goes back much further. We were high school classmates. We didn't go to high school here in Beverly Hills or East Los Angeles or West LA or out in the Valley or Los Angeles High. We attended high school in Orange County. We attended high school at Huntington Beach High School in downtown Huntington Beach, and then we moved to Marina High School at the end of our high school career. Now, I say this because Judge Snyder excelled in high school. She was our valedictorian of our class of 1965. And that is saying a lot because that little distinction says much about her future career. Now, I could barely find my way to high school, let alone have the academic success that Chris had. We knew in high school that she was going to be successful. There was just no doubt about it. And when we finished high school, Chris started college at UCLA, and then I think she moved to Pomona, where again, Chris excelled at Pomona. She was a Pomona scholar. Our paths sort of diverted. Years later, we ended up here in Los Angeles. We both returned to LA. I had roots here in LA, and Chris had roots here in LA, and we ended up back here. And our paths crossed again in our involvement in public interest law. And if you read the little description in the program, it talks about Chris's involvement with the Beverly Hills Bar Association and the Public Council. Chris was on the board of Public Council when it was sponsored by the Beverly Hills Bar Association, and then she was involved when the Beverly Hills Bar Association and LA Bar came together and formed Public Council as we know it today. She was on the board of directors of that organization, as was I. And she later became president of Public Council. That says something else about her because what that showed was she had a strong sensitivity to concern for others who were less fortunate. And she was instrumental in helping to establish Public Council as we know it today. She dedicated herself to that kind of work as an adjunct from her work at the law firms. Eventually, she also moved on and was on the board of directors of the Western Center on Law and Poverty, another organization that I was affiliated with. Years later, we ended up our paths crossing again at the district court when we both served as district court judges here in Los Angeles. Now, the award tonight is for judicial excellence. And there is no question that Chris is just a terrific district court judge. I know that from looking and reviewing her work. She is a fabulous judge. And I always am thrilled when I get to see one of her cases. But there is something else about Chris that I can't capture. But I do want to share a few remarks with you from one of her law clerks. One thing about being a federal judge is you have the experience of working with these wonderful, very talented law clerks who are fresh out of law school and are so eager and just enthused to learn and to absorb all that they can. And we get the advantage of working with them. And so when I was thinking about what to say tonight, I thought, well, I should dip into the law clerk well and just see what their impressions might be. And I don't want to, there's much with, you can learn much about a district court judge or a federal judge by talking to their law clerks. They know all the little quirky things, and they can size up the judge very easy. But I want to just share with you one thought to wrap up my remarks about Judge Snyder. And I think this captures the essence of her as a judge and her success and why the Beverly Hills Bar Association selected her this year for this award. So the law clerk wrote to me and said this: I absolutely adore Judge Snyder. When I talk to people about my experience clerking for Judge Snyder, I describe it as winning the judicial law clerkship lottery. I cannot imagine a more rewarding experience from both a professional and personal standpoint. She is a remarkable jurist and an incredible woman. As a judge, she is extremely thoughtful, hardworking, and faithful to precedent. But she never loses sight of the human element of her cases or the tremendous impact her rulings have on the lives of the parties. She is both fair and compassionate, patient yet firm. I have only seen her treat parties, lawyers, witnesses, and anyone else appearing before her with complete dignity and respect, even in situations where it would not be easy to do so. And I think that really says a lot about Judge Snyder. These are remarks from somebody who saw her every day, saw her at difficult times, difficult cases, and hard circumstances. And yet, it captures what I think this award says about Judge Snyder. She is just excellent in all respects. She was in high school, college, at the firms, and as a judge. And to that, I say congratulations, Chris. It's a wonderful honor to be here tonight to share this evening with you. And now I would like to shift for just a moment. I have another honor, and that's to introduce Judge Audrey Collins from the District Court. Judge Collins just finished her term as Chief Judge of the Central District. I'm sure many of you know her and know of her. But let me just say a few things about her background. I think most of this is captured in the program. She received her BA from Howard and a master's from American University. She earned her law degree from UCLA. And she spent the bulk of her career, about 16 years if I'm not mistaken, in the DA's office. Before that, though, she spent 1 year at the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles as a staff attorney. So that also, her commitment to public service is just deep and strong. And her work at the district court has been absolutely stellar. And she was a terrific chief judge of the Central District. She had difficult times, many difficult issues with the budget cuts and whatnot, but Judge Collins has weathered the storm, and she's now back to being a regular district judge handling cases on a regular basis. So with that, Judge Collins.
Thank you so much, and good evening to all of you. It's my honor and pleasure to further introduce Chris Snyder, the recipient of the 2013 Ronald M. George Award. And I'm not going to review all of the cases that she's handled, all of the difficult decisions she's made, but really just to tell you a little bit on a personal level about her qualities as a federal district judge and as a friend. I haven't known Chris for nearly as long as Richard. In fact, I didn't really get to know her until she became a district judge about 15 years ago. Chris, as many of you may know, holds one of 28 authorized active district judgeships in a district that, based on caseload, should have many more. Because of that, you should know that Chris is now handling a caseload that's much larger than the caseload she handled when she started as a district judge at the end of 1997. But it's how she handles that huge caseload that distinguishes Chris, both as a judge and as a person. As Richard already said, if you talk to anybody who's been in her court in any capacity, you already know she's fair, calm, listens to both sides, has an instinctive understanding of the feelings and situations that others are in, and is patient beyond belief in trial or in hearings on motions. Speaking of hearings on motions, Chris hears oral argument on motions more often than many of her colleagues, including me. Whether because of the sheer number of motions that we now have or other reasons, many of us have reduced the number of matters set for oral argument. But Chris, perhaps due to her background as a civil litigator, believes in providing opportunities for many lawyers to be heard. It's no surprise then that she would be honored by the Beverly Hills Bar Association, comprised of so many lawyers who benefit from this opportunity. She's also a judge to whom other judges listen. We call Chris for advice, knowing that we will always receive her undivided attention and a wise and thoughtful answer to our problems. Now, many of you may already know something of Chris's dedication and determination, but I'd like to give you a specific example of it. Late in December 2011, Chris suffered a fall and badly injured her back. Within a few days, she was in bed, flat on her back, almost literally unable to move. Well, the timing can never be good when something like that happens to you, but here it was particularly awful. You see, Chris had just received a major new lawsuit in which the plaintiffs opposed rapidly approaching cuts in payments to the Medi-Cal program. There was an urgent need to resolve plaintiffs' motion for preliminary injunction blocking those cuts to Medi-Cal recipients. Anyone else I know suffering from that kind of back pain with a decision of that magnitude to be made within a few days would have asked for help. And let me be clear that our colleagues, many of whom are here tonight, would have given her that help, but not Chris. She read all the papers, did all the research, and conducted a full telephonic hearing with all the parties while in bed flat on her back. Then she made her decision and dictated the order to her husband, Mark, from her bed while he typed it into her computer. She was determined to handle that matter herself, and somehow she did. That's just who Chris is. She is determined, and she proves that you don't have to be John Wayne to show true grit. Outside her courtroom, Chris is an integral part of our court, too. She's currently on the court's executive committee, chair of the Magistrate Judge Committee, which is going to be extremely busy for the next couple of years, and also a member of the LA Courthouse Committee. Something you may not know about her, although I think Richard has alluded to it, despite her caseload, as part of her commitment to mentoring new lawyers, Chris always hires 2 new law clerks right out of law school. That's more unusual now than it used to be. Because, again, of the caseload, many judges now feel it's just more efficient, easier to hire experienced law clerks who've been out of law school for a couple of years. But Chris is not concerned with her own convenience. Instead, she's more concerned with the opportunities that she can offer through teaching and mentoring 2 brand new law school grads every year, and with the goodwill that they will generate as ambassadors for the court when they join their law firms or begin careers in public service. Lastly, not only is Chris a great judge, she's also a great friend. As you've gathered from my comments, all of us on the court are very busy. But Chris is never too busy to make a new friend or deepen an existing friendship. She's a very special friend, too, generous with her time and help, always more concerned with you than she is with herself, and the special friend you want with you in both difficult and good times. Chris truly deserves the award she receives tonight, and I'd like to introduce Presiding Justice Norman Epstein, who will present that award to Chris. Presiding Justice Norman L. Epstein was appointed to the Los Angeles Municipal Court by Governor Reagan, to the Los Angeles Superior Court by Governor Pat Brown, to the Court of Appeals as an Associate Justice by Governor Deukmejian, and to his present position by Governor Schwarzenegger, and if that isn't a record, it should be. During his 35 years on the bench, Justice Epstein has done a lot to shape California law as we know it. He was Dean of the California Judicial College and a faculty member of the college for 25 years. He continues to lecture both attorneys and judges on many topics. Justice Epstein also served on the Judicial Council of California from 2001 to 2003. Justice Epstein, a graduate of UCLA and the UCLA School of Law, received the Beverly Hills Bar Association's Ronald M. George Award for Judicial Excellence in 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, Justice Norman Epstein.
Thank you, Audrey. Governor Wilson, honorable judges of whatever court you may be on, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to be here to be able to present the award to a very distinguished judge. And I remember attending last year the program. it happened that Friday, I'm not sure it was Friday, but it was a midweek meeting, and President Obama was paying a visit to Los Angeles on the same afternoon. The entire west part of Los Angeles was in total gridlock. I fortunately had a ride to the Beverly Wilshire. I was in a large black car, and we were going down the geographic center of Olympic Boulevard. I mean, half in the right and the eastbound lanes and half in the westbound lanes with the emergency lights going on. And the people who were passing, they would look at this black car and look at me, and I know what they were saying to themselves. He doesn't look like President Obama. But I got there. Judge Snyder, as you've heard, has served for 15 years with distinction as a member of what is probably the most impacted trial court in the United States. She is a product of our community, born, raised, educated here. She attended public schools in Montebello and in Orange County. Then she went on to Pomona College as a history major, and for a time, I'm reliably informed, she flirted with a career that would have been a career in academics of getting a doctorate in history, and the logical thing you do with that is that you teach in college. Had she done that, with her talent, general skill, and people ability, she surely would have become a major dean or chancellor or president of one of those institutions. She decided to take another course, their loss and our gain. Instead, she enrolled at Stanford Law School. She graduated, passed the bar, and began practicing law. And years later, she returned to Stanford, this time as a member of the Board of Visitors to the law school. Now, I've been doing some due diligence about Judge Snyder, trying to dig up some stories about her background from people who know her particularly well and who, until this evening, have been good friends of Judge Snyder. And I've got a couple of anecdotes to share with you. She was a second-year summer clerk for Wyman Boutzer. And during the time she was there, she was assigned to help a partner who had a very difficult and very substantial securities case. You know, what does a second-year law student know about securities? Nothing. But she was assigned to do something and to try to help, and she was looking at what he had done and looking at the law, and she informed this partner that he was on the wrong track and going the wrong way. Now, that can be a career-ending experience. It's one thing to have that view. It's another to tell the partner, especially if you tell the partner explicitly. The partner checked it with someone else, and then it went to Frank Rothman, one of the giants of the bar at that time. And Frank thought that Chris was right, and as a result, they changed directions in terms of what they were doing about the case, and everything turned out fine. Years later, or a couple years later, she joined the Wyman Boutzer firm and became a partner. And she was representing a major client and a major piece of litigation. Just a word about that. The famous actress Raquel Welch was given the leading role in a film under production at MGM, and MGM fired her and didn't pay her. As well sued the studio and a passel of executives, and Chris was representing all of those in a trial. The trial was hard fought. It was largely involved credibility issues, and the jury found in favor of Ms. Welch. Ms. Welch obtained a verdict of $10.8 million and asked for a comment about that when the trial was over. Chris said, Ms. Welch didn't achieve a fraction of what she was seeking, which was $20 million. She only got $10.8 million. Which shows you always stand up for your client and you keep a stiff upper lip and things may be better. When Wyman Boutzer dissolved, Chris moved on, became a partner of the Cat & Muchin firm and then Kornbluth and Seltzer. And she was there when her name was submitted by Senator Boxer to President Clinton for an appointment to the United States District Court. She was nominated for that position in January and was confirmed in November, which is not a bad gestation period for that sort of thing. Chris has always been a hard worker, and like her mother, who was the first woman to be chair of the Democratic Party in California, she's a fighter. She will fight for what she thinks is right. She will fight to see that justice is done in whatever she's doing, and particularly in the handling of the matters before her. She has held leadership positions in a number of charities and public interest organizations in California. She is a founding president of Public Counsel and has been active in many others. As you've heard, she carries her full load as a district judge, and that is quite a load. She's handled high-profile and challenging cases, and everything that comes along, that comes her way, large or small, ill or well, here or on vacation or whatever. Whatever the challenge, she does it. You've heard the story about her being laid up in bed and still nevertheless handling a difficult case she had, dictating the memoranda, and getting it done. She also does her full share of work on the court in terms of the administrative work of the court. She's on various committees, one of which is a committee chaired by District Judge Margaret Morrow, who's here somewhere this evening, which is looking to bring a new federal courthouse to the city of Los Angeles sometime within our lifetime. Chris is an outstanding judge and an outstanding person. She's so regarded by her colleagues and by attorneys who appear before her. She has faced and faced down many challenges, never shirks from hard work, and commits whatever amount of time and energy it takes to handle the case and to get it right. She does that with wisdom, grace, common sense, and courtesy. No more can be asked of any judge. It is now my honor to present this award, named for Ronald M. George, the first recipient and one of the outstanding jurists in our state. Here is a citation. This award recognizes an outstanding member of the judiciary whose work and career have significantly improved the administration of justice and raised the standards and integrity of the judiciary throughout the state. The award honors a judicial officer who leaves a legacy of accomplishment, innovation, and success with an indelible long-term impact. Chris, would you please come forward and accept the Ronald M. George Award for Judicial Excellence? I understand you like OK Clark. This is from Tiffany.
Now, I'm going to tell you a funny story. Justice Epstein just walked off with my comments, so I am going to Mark, I brought a backup set. I was a Girl Scout. Thank you, Justice Epstein. I am humbled by your presentation of the Ronald M. George Award for Judicial Excellence to me tonight. Chief Justice George was a truly exceptional leader and jurist who served the people of this state with great distinction. Justice Epstein, you are also an extraordinary jurist who has had an enormous impact on the development of the law, both as a judge and as a legal scholar who has given continued life to the great works of Bernard Whitkin. I am deeply moved that the Beverly Hills Bar Association has seen fit to recognize me with an award that has been given to these eminent jurists. Thank you, Judge Pius and Judge Collins, for your overly kind and generous words. I am so fortunate that both of you have been special friends over the years. I am reluctant to say just how many because I will be dating myself, but I think Judge Pius has let the proverbial cat out of the bag. As Gerald Gunther once said when I came to the court and I wrote to him, he said, "Ms. Snyder, you are older than you think." You graduated from law school in 1972. I had written a letter saying I had graduated in 1973. I also wish to thank my colleagues on the federal and state courts who are here this evening. Besides Judges Pius and Collins, And normally I would not mention names, but they have come such a great distance at such hardship, and they are so busy that I do want to thank them individually. We have here tonight Judges Connie Marshall, Dean Pragerson and his wife Sharon, Margaret Morrow, Howard Matz, Jane Matz, the Honorable Dale Fisher, Phil Gutierrez, as well as Chief Magistrate Judge Suzanne Siegel, Margaret Nagel, Victor Kenton, Paul Abrams, retired Magistrate Judge Rosalind Chapman, and I also saw that Magistrate Judge Rosenthal also arrived tonight to my surprise, so thank you all for being here. And I don't know why I said Rosenthal, because it's Rosenberg, and Elisa, forgive me. To all the federal and state judicial officers who are here tonight, you are my heroes, because I know how hard you work and how dedicated you are to providing justice for all. I recognize that one reason that some of you honor me tonight is because you knew my mother and father. They served as mentors to some of you, and I stand here tonight in no small part because of them. Justice Klein, Roz Wyman, thank you so much for being here. I also want to thank my judicial assistant, Robbie Ball, who has guided me with great cheerfulness and aplomb from day one, and my courtroom deputy clerk, Catherine Jang, who has managed her duties with extraordinary patience and skill, and the hardworking and dedicated law clerks who have helped bring me to this day. Marcus Spiegel, one of my former clerks, is here tonight. Aaron Lowenstein had hoped to be, but is not, and my current great clerks, Jeff Friedman and Chris Brumwell, are here. Thank you for being here. I am also privileged to share this evening with Marshall Grossman, who is not only a brilliant and accomplished lawyer, but also a great and good friend to Mark and me. Congratulations, Marshall and Marlene, on this special occasion. I also want to thank the members of Mark's Los Angeles law firm family who are here in force tonight, and I want to express my special thanks to Mark's partners, Steve Sussman, Neil Manny, his wife Nancy, and Vineet Bhatia, who traveled from Houston to be with us tonight. I am indeed lucky to be able to count them and all the lawyers of Sussman Godfrey as my friends, and for those of you who know our escapades, co-adventurers. I especially want to thank my family, Madeline and Gary Williams, and Andrea and Bob Decker, who are here tonight. Maddie and Andy, you are the sisters I never had, and I am grateful for the love and support that you, Bob, and Gary have provided to me from the day we met. And last, but certainly not least, I want to thank my partner in life, my loving and devoted husband, Mark Seltzer. Mark, you are my hero. You make every day of my life better and are the force of nature that makes me do my very best in all of my professional and personal endeavors. The Beverly Hills Bar Association is one of the largest bar associations in the country, with a long history of service to our community. It celebrated its 80th anniversary last summer. As Judge Paez mentioned, in 1977, I served on the board of directors of Public Counsel at a time when Public Counsel was an arm of the Beverly Hills Bar Association, devoting itself to impact litigation. I became a member of the board at the suggestion of Roz Wyman, who I mentioned is here this evening with the Wyman family, who encouraged me to become more active in pro bono work. As always, I followed my mother's long-standing edict and did what Roz said. I am very glad I did, because not surprisingly, she was right. When the Los Angeles County Bar Association was seeking to establish a volunteer legal services program for attorneys practicing in private law firms, the Beverly Hills Bar Association and the Los Angeles County Bar Association joined forces to fund public counsel with dues paid by members of both bar associations. They transformed public counsel into a separate public interest law firm, which enabled attorneys from many prominent law firms in Los Angeles to serve as pro bono counsel for the poor. As mentioned, I had the privilege of working as a representative of the Beverly Hills Bar Association to create this joint venture. The president and director, Herman Vera, is here tonight, and I must say today public counsel is one of the largest public interest law firms in the United States, serving thousands of poor people in desperate need of legal assistance. As a result of the vision and leadership of my colleague and friend, Judge Howard Matz, public counsel also staffs the Pro Se Clinic for our court, the first program of its kind in the nation. Every member of the Beverly Hills Bar Association should be extremely proud of these accomplishments, which is one of the many reasons I am so proud to receive your award tonight. Although I truly believe that other judges are more deserving of this award, I proudly accept it not only for myself, but on behalf of the judges of the Central District of California. Just as the financial pressures on the state judiciary have caused a loss of personnel and the closure of courthouses, budget cuts to the federal judiciary, as well as the specter of sequestration, threaten to impact our court's ability to meet what are already great challenges. Many of you know what we federal judges do, but for those who may not, let me spend a minute. Some of this has been mentioned, so I'm going to shorten it up a bit, but there are 28 district judges and 24 full-time magistrate judges in the Central District of California, serving nearly 19 million people, located in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo counties. By contrast, the United States District Courts for the Southern Districts of New York and Texas together have a significantly smaller population to serve, but are authorized to have a total of more than 45 district judges and many more magistrate judges. Not only do we have fewer judges for more people than any other district in the United States, we are currently at risk of losing one of our 28 judgeship positions. That position is a so-called temporary judgeship that expires this year unless Congress converts it to a permanent judgeship. This means that unless Congress acts, when my colleague Judge Dale Fisher takes senior status, no vacancy will be created, and we will be authorized for only 27 judgeships. Senators Feinstein and Boxer are trying to craft a solution, and we are grateful for their efforts. As mentioned, each district judge carries a caseload of approximately 375 cases and 100 criminal cases. The criminal cases include complex multi-defendant cases, often with 50 defendants or more. Try fitting 100 attorneys and 50 defendants in a death penalty eligible case in a courtroom built in 1938. I assure you it cannot be done. As a result, my colleagues are required to use the one multi-defendant courtroom located in the Roybal Federal Building to handle these cases. However, there is light at the end of the tunnel, due in part and mostly due to the Herculean efforts of Judge Margaret Morrow. It looks that after more than 10 years, we will finally have a new courthouse with new facilities which will help us to better serve the public. And I hope you will all recognize Judge Morrow, who is here tonight, for this achievement, because she has been amazing. Of course, the criminal calendar is only part of the story. Our civil docket is, if anything, even more demanding. We rank very high among all federal courts across the nation in the number of patent filings. That fact, plus the large number of intellectual property cases filed in Los Angeles, the home of the entertainment industry, means that we preside over an enormous number of complex civil cases. And that's not counting all the other civil cases touching on every subject matter of state and federal law. As our caseload increases, our resources are decreasing. Even though Congress averted the so-called fiscal cliff by passing the American Taxpayer Relief Act of 2012 on January 1st, Congress left in place the automatic sequestration spending cuts. The effective date for sequestration, the across-the-board spending cuts built into the continuing resolution adopted by Congress for fiscal year 2013 is March 1, 2013, in other words, a week from Friday. If sequestration occurs, it will result in the loss to up to 25% of the federal court's non-judicial staff, or alternatively massive furloughs of court personnel. The prospect is really daunting. Learned Hand, one of our nation's greatest jurists, said in a speech to the New York Legal Aid Society words that are worth recalling now. He said, "If we are to keep our democracy, there must be one commandment: thou shalt not ration justice." My colleagues are very mindful of this commandment and will continue to do all they can to serve the needs of the millions of people in the Central District of California. We know we can rely on the Beverly Hills Bar Association to help keep our court open to all. Being a judge is both a privilege and a responsibility I take with great seriousness, knowing how decisions can affect the lives of those who appear before us. It is also a great honor, and I am amazed that I sit on a court where so many giants of the law came before me and also serve with me today. Tonight, I feel that you honor them as much as you honor me, and I thank you on behalf of them as well as myself.
Second part of our evening is about Marshall Grossman. First presenter is USC President Max Nikias. And Max is a Renaissance man. He's been at USC since 1991 as a professor who taught both electrical engineering and ancient Greek history, as a member of the National Academy of Engineering and chair of the USC Hospital Governing Board. Max has moved from signal processing patents used by the Department of Defense to president of a university known for great sports and rabid fans. He's a visionary leader, moving USC from being one of the best schools in Southern California to a well-earned reputation as an elite international university whose student body comes from over a dozen countries. Along the way, Max has continued traditions among an amazing core of USC alumni that often have more in common with John Wayne than with Raghswamy Srinivasan, who is the co-inventor of the LASIK eye procedure. The USC alumni are apparently more enthusiastic than ever about the direction Max is going with the university. Recent gifts include a mind-boggling $200 million for the Dornsife College of Letters of Arts and Sciences, as well as the largest gift ever for dance instruction in the United States to the USC Gloria Kaufman School of Dance. Please welcome the amazing Max Nikias.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good evening, everyone. Governor Wilson, honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to be here tonight to honor and congratulate my good friend and great attorney, Marshall Grossman. For more than 40 years, he has been one of the most influential and successful lawyers in the nation. Throughout his colorful career, he has represented some of the world's most prestigious clients, offering his insights and his expertise in a number of landmark cases. There are many reasons Marshall has been such a shining star in the legal field for more than 4 decades. Those of you who have worked closely with him know that he is a shrewd negotiator as well as a skilled strategist. Sun Tzu, the 6th century Chinese general, offered timely advice on military strategy that has evolved into timeless wisdom for many different fields. In his most famous work, The Art of War, he wrote, "The general," probably he should have said the marshal, "who wins the battle makes many calculations before the battle is fought. The general who loses makes but very few calculations beforehand." When Marshall prepares for a case, he is like the successful general who surveys the entire field of possibilities, searching for strengths and noticing weaknesses. He relentlessly prepares for each one of his cases. His mind is always alert, calmly making calculations and looking for leverage, so that when he makes his move, the battle will quickly come to an end. From experience, I can tell you that when Marshall decides to apply the pressure, his opponents always feel the squeeze. He has often said he prefers to settle cases out of court. But when anyone is looking for the very best attorney, they should never settle for less than Marshall Grossman. While I'm very proud that he graduated from my university, USC's Good School of Law, he did not start out as a Trojan. It took him some time to see the light. Before he applied to USC, he spent 2.5 years at UCLA. But even as an undergrad, Marshall had his sights set on becoming an attorney. So he turned his attention to USC, which at the time allowed students to enroll in law school after only 2 years at the undergraduate level. When he applied to USC, Marshall wasn't sure his grades alone would help him gain acceptance. So he set up a meeting with the school's dean, and like a good lawyer, he laid out a case that convinced the dean to admit him. Over the next few years, he would have many opportunities to leave law school and walk away with a lot of money. During the summer, while he was a student, he earned a living by selling encyclopedias door to door. With his power of persuasion, he quickly became one of the company's most successful salesmen, averaging $1,000 per week. Halfway through his final year at USC, the company offered him a permanent position in charge of all its offices in the western 1/3 of the United States. The job paid an annual salary of $150,000 as well as a generous commission. Keep in mind that this was in 1961, and Marshall was only 22 years old. I don't know many people who could turn down such a lucrative offer, but Marshall did. And that decision set him on the course of an illustrious career that has brought him to the lofty heights of achievement that we celebrate tonight. So Marshall, this evening we congratulate you on this tremendous honor, and we thank you for all of the incredible work that you have done throughout your distinguished career. And we are so proud that you ended up as a Trojan. And once a Trojan, you're always a Trojan. Congratulations, and fight on always. And now it is my pleasure to introduce a veteran trial attorney. Pat Kelly is a regional managing partner of Wilson, Elser, Moscovich, Edelman, and Digger LLP's Western region. He is also president of the State Bar of California. Pat is a veteran trial lawyer who focuses his practice on advising and representing insurance carriers in coverage matters and defending individuals and companies in high-stakes professional liability and commercial cases. Pat is a fellow of the International Academy of Trial Lawyers. Pat Kelly was appointed by the Governor of California to serve as one of 11 members of the Commission on Judicial Performance, which disciplines California state judges and has the power to remove them from the bench. Ladies and gentlemen, State Bar President Patrick Kelly.
You know, having stepped up here, first I have to clarify something, having heard the inter-university rivalry that's spiraling around the room. Justice Vogel and I just took a vote, and in going through Judge Snyder's resume, came to the conclusion that indeed Pomona College is the most outstanding institution of higher learning in the United States. Now, I'm not going to put that to a vote tonight because looking around the room, Pomona College versus SC wouldn't fare very well. But I can tell you, Chris, both as a former Sagehen and a former Wyman Boutzer alumni, we're all very proud of you. It is my honor tonight well, first I should say good evening, ladies, gentlemen, honorable judges, and so many wonderful dignitaries in this room. I should also mention that I'm proud to say that I have been a member of the Beverly Hills Bar for over 30 years myself. It is an honor this evening to say a few words on behalf of my good friend Marshall Grossman. But typical of Marshall didn't want me really to say just a few words about him. He wanted to talk about something that is very near and dear to both of our hearts, and that's the importance of a commitment to public service. Many of us know Marshall because of his stellar skills as an advocate and a litigator. But tonight, because Marshall so aptly illustrates the significant benefit to the community that can be brought by service in a professional and community organizations, I would like to spend a few minutes talking about Marshall's demonstrated recognition of the importance of lawyers reaching beyond their own self-interest in service to the community. Indeed, there is no better example of a lawyer who in the course of what has been called finding his professional voice has done just that, and doing so has made members of the profession proud of his accomplishments. But more, through his professional affiliations, Marshall has made a positive and lasting difference in our community. Indeed, Marshall has been a true leader in demonstrating how involvement in the bar and community organization can give an attorney a voice that, when joined with other voices, can make a real difference. Following in the shoes of his partners Daniel Weber, a former president of this association, and Leon Alschilder, Marshall served on the board of this association and became president of the Barristers. He has served on many, many organizations, including, among others, Public Counsel, BETSEDIC, the American Jewish Committee, the California Coastal Commission, and most recently, the Commission on Judicial Performance, where he served as chair. In fact, Marshall and I were brought together in this last role on the Commission on Judicial Performance because thanks to our dinner chair tonight, Governor Pete Wilson, who appointed me, I served as one of the first two lawyers appointed to the Commission on Judicial Performance when it was reformulated under Proposition 190 in 1995. When I termed out in 2002, Marshall was appointed by then Governor Gray Davis to take my place. Upon his appointment, Marshall reached out to me to discuss what is required on the commission, and for the next 10 years served with distinction in that commission with the diligence and good judgment that has become the hallmark of his career. But I think his contributions to the profession and community are perhaps best illustrated by two remarkable actions he took while serving on the Coastal Commission in the mid-1980s. These not only illustrate what a fine lawyer and public servant he is, but more, they illustrate what one professional voice in public service can accomplish when added to like-minded voices in bringing about positive change for our community. First, in the mid-1980s, the then administration sought to open up the California coastal tidelands, including the Santa Barbara Channel, to oil drilling. As a leader on the Coastal Commission, Marshall was a strong voice in the initiative to require that permits would only be issued if adequate environmental safeguards were put in place. The oil companies were unwilling to give those assurances, and thus there was no further drilling in these protected vulnerable areas, thanks to Marshall's voice and the voice of the other commissioners. Second, and perhaps more important, in 1987, the Jonathan Club sought to expand its Santa Monica facility on land to be leased from the city of Santa Monica that also came under the jurisdiction of the Coastal Commission. As some of you may remember, during those years, there was an issue of discrimination in private clubs throughout the state and indeed the nation. As a member of the Coastal Commission, Marshall again stood up and was counted. He made the motion that was adopted by the commission that any lease expansion could only be granted if the Jonathan Club would sign a certification that no application for membership to the club would be excluded based upon national origin, sex, sexual preference, or religion. In a highly publicized litigation, the Jonathan Club challenged this ruling and ultimately lost in both the trial and appellate courts. In the end, the Jonathan Club signed that certification. But that became a tidal wave. Flash forward 25 years. When that very lease came up for renewal, the Jonathan Club consulted with Marshall as to what wording should be used in their bylaws to address the same issue. Marshall provided that wording, and in part because of his motion and the motion of that commission in 1987, virtually every private club in California has adopted similar wording, and more important, an attitude towards diversity that is more consistent with the equal rights that are promised under our Constitution, and that was a major, major contribution. The point is this: whether you agree or do not agree with the result in either of these matters, two things become clear. First, Marshall Grossman is a great leader and effective community servant who stands up for what he believes, and I'll clap to that. The second is that Marshall was given the opportunity to have a tremendous impact because of his recognition that one voice alone is often a voice in the wilderness. But when added to other voices made available through his service in the professional and community organizations, the impact can be tremendous, as it was in these two instances. Stated otherwise, as my friend and mentor, former State Bar President Sam William, who has passed away, Sam used to say to me, the impact can be tremendous, but only if you have many committed hands working together. Marshall indeed has proven by his actions that he is committed to this process and has effected positive change for our community because of it. He is indeed a very worthy recipient of the Excellence in Advocacy Award. And now it is also my honor to introduce the next speaker, who will present the Excellence in Advocacy Award to Marshall. This presenter is truly a lawyer's lawyer, an unparalleled advocate for the rights of individuals, and second to none in his service to the bar and the people of this state. He has been president of virtually every trial lawyer organization, has been a close friend and advisor to many, many leaders of our state and our nation, and has received so many awards and honors that I cannot list them here. So in determining how to recognize this speaker tonight, I talked to one of his partners, Howard Miller. He suggested that I keep it simple, and so I will say it this way. Indeed, there are but few lawyers in California who truly need no introduction other than their name, for their name simply says it all. The person I now introduce is one of those few lawyers. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce my good friend and mentor, the recipient of the 2012 Excellence in Advocacy Award, Thomas Girardi.
Thanks, Mr. Kelly. The only negative thing I think that happened tonight is Roman Silverfeld heard that Marshall was getting the award. Roman was the first recipient of this award. He said, boy, so this award's really going downhill. I'm only kidding. He said, this award has a lot more polish to us tonight, doesn't it, Tom? I said, it certainly does. Hey, Beverly Hills Bar, you're really something, huh? I mean, think about it. How about the two honorees tonight? You couldn't find anybody better. How about the people you have here? The judges, the justices, those mediators, these terrific lawyers, these great friends. And it's all this organization that has a function like this, which is really terrific. And so to honor Judge Snyder, to honor my pal, it's what a nice night. I wanted to do something a little different in terms of what I did to be able to give him this award. We had our law clerks find lawyers that he had been opposed to. This is true. This is a true story. And we didn't want somebody where he was a lawyer and somebody answered the complaint and that was the end of it. But it either went to trial or went all through the trial process. The first guy was a little negative. I called him, and I made the calls after the law clerks gave me this thing. He said, he cost my client a fortune, call somebody else, and slammed the phone down. One person, top drawer. One person, total gentleman. One person, the absolute best. One guy said, if Marshall says it's Thursday, the judge knows it's Thursday, the jury knows it's Thursday, and I know it's Thursday, even if it's Tuesday. One guy said, you better do what he wants, or the next thing you know, he's going to get a lot more than he wants. These are all true statements, Marshall. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. So here's what the award says. The award has 4 words on it that I think are significant. Outstanding. To get this thing, you have to be outstanding as a trial lawyer. The second word on it that's important is repetitive. You got to do it again and again and again. And then the third part of the award is 2 words, give back. And man, he gives back. It's an honor, ladies and gentlemen, justices, judges, for me to be here. And it's a terrific honor for me to give this award to a great friend and a lawyer that meets all of those 4 requirements of outstanding, repetitive, and give back. Come up here, Marshall.
I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to just tell a little story about Tom. About 10 years ago, he had a very serious case against a client of mine, and there was a substantial amount of money involved. And during the course of discovery, we called in a forensic expert to take a look at this individual's diary, which recounted a very serious story against my client's interest. I sat down with Tom, and I said, Tom, here's the report. He looked at the report. He saw that it was credible.
That's true.
And that there were major facts created in this diary after the fact. I said, Tom, it's time to settle this case. How much do you want? And he said, nothing. Nothing. That's the mark of a great lawyer. Thank you very much.
That's true.
For those of you who know me well, believe it or not, I cry easily. And I'm going to do my best not to shed a tear. But it's a very emotional evening for me. And I feel like I've come home to the Beverly Hills Bar Association. It's a special community, Beverly Hills and the Bar Association, both when I started practicing in January of 1965 and now. But it's oh so different. Think about this. When I started practicing law, there was no Century City. There was no Century City. We had plenty of role models, and I remember the days with great fondness when I would go to the monthly meetings of the Beverly Hills Bar Association with those who aren't here today, Dan Weber, Leon Alschuler, and Ben Schwartz. The three associates in the firm would march into the Beverly Wilshire Hotel following the leaders of the firms. There was Larry Irell and Arthur Manella and their firm, Arthur Greenberg, Mendel Silverberg of Mitchell Silverberg, John Irwin of Irwin, Coleman and Jessup, Sam Freshman of Freshman, Ranson Komsky. Sam was here this evening. Those men, unfortunately, no women at that time, but those men were our mentors, our teachers, our trainers. I'm very grateful for what I've learned from the current and former partners of Bingham, and before that, Alschuler, Grossman, and Pines, and our associates, many of whom are here tonight. They are now my teachers. The 60s and the 70s were the first of many good days and years, but not all was good in the good old days. Precious few women and even fewer students of color attended our law schools. No one dared come out of the closet. The major downtown law firms openly discriminated in their hiring. I knew better than to sign up for an on-campus interview because even though I was qualified, I didn't have a chance of a callback. Private clubs in this city banned women, Jews, and anyone of color. When the military bands played at one of the three major clubs, the African Americans in the band had to take the servants' elevator up to the main dining room. They could not enter through the front door. This is Los Angeles in the 1960s and into the 1970s and indeed into the early 1980s. I've been fortunate to have terrific lawyers and judges from whom I have learned everything I know over the years concerning the practice of law. Some of them you've heard from tonight, and I want to single one person out. You don't know him by this name, but I do, because that's what we called him, Stormin' Norman. Stormin' Norman Epstein. The judge before whom I tried 3 trials back to back immediately before he went on the bench. And I will tell you a story that's probably unprecedented in the history of Los Angeles law. I threw Norman Epstein out of his own courtroom. Now you may wonder, how did I do that? He showed up in court in the middle of a bitterly contested case, a famous jeans war case, and he was bandaged from head to toe. And he took the bench. And I took one look at him and I thought to myself, the jury is not going to listen to anything that's said here today. So he said, call the jury, and I said, not so fast, Judge Epstein. I'm taking a little liberty here. I said, not so fast, Judge Epstein. I said, may I approach the bench? He said, sure. I said, Judge, what happened? If I remember correctly, he said he was riding his bicycle on San Vicente and the wheel got stuck in a grate and he tumbled over, and God knows how badly he was injured, but it was visible to the eye. I said, Judge, you got to go home. He said, I can't go home. I got a jury. I said, Judge, you're going home because the lawyers are leaving the courtroom now. He went home, and you know how long he stayed home? 1 day. But at least he took the day off, and it's probably the last one that he's ever taken off. Chris Snyder, you know, Chrissy and Mark, Marlene and I feel like we have a love affair with the two of them. I was fortunate enough to represent Chris in her law firm at one time. And Mark worked with me on one of the more significant and rewarding cases I've ever had. It was pending before Judge Malcolm Lucas, and one of the great judges and jurists of our community. the equity funding litigation, and Mark was the youngest lawyer on the case, working with my co-counsel. And I learned from Mark, and I learned at that time to listen to the voices of younger lawyers. And it was the best lesson I've had because it was so easy to tune them out. But Mark brought me a long way, and I'm indebted to him and grateful to him for everything that he has taught me and for the wisdom of his choice in marrying Chris. Thank you for sharing this evening. And Pat Kelly, Pat was also a great guide for me because when my partner, Bert Pines, became the Judicial Appointment Secretary to Gray Davis, and he called and told me there was an opening on the Commission on Judicial Performance and would I like to serve on it, I said, what does it do? And he told me, and I said, well, that sounds pretty cool. I said, you mean I discipline judges? And then I thought for a minute, what the hell happens when I go into a courtroom? Well, it turned out to be a wonderful experience, and I give thanks to Bert and the governor for the two governors for the opportunity of serving. And I give thanks to Bert for his public service. As city attorney, at age 33, he was elected to the city attorney's office, taking the place of an 80-year-old person who did very little. And Bert democratized that office, brought women into that office, brought men and women of color into that office, and created the finest public law office in the country. And then, of course, he went on. And we became law partners together and built a pretty good little law firm. And then he got the calling back to government and became the Judicial Appointment Secretary. And even though he was able to appoint himself to any judicial post he wanted, he selected the trial court out in the Valley. Now go figure. The Valley, that was before Carmagnon or whatever the hell it's called. And then there's Pete Wilson. I mean, did I ever dream that I would ever be partners with Pete Wilson? I mean, think about this. One of the great public servants of all time, mayor, assemblyman, governor, United States senator, the highest elected office in the land next to the presidency and the vice presidency. And I am so proud and pleased to work with you, Pete, to get to know you and Gail. I view you as a national treasure and who some days is all mine. And thank you for being here this evening. Max Nikias, what can I say? And Bob, Robert Rasmussen, what can I say? I was ill-qualified for admission to USC Law School. I truly was. After about 2.5 years of college, I was not well qualified. I scored in the 50 percentile on the LSAT. I was scared to death when I took that test, and I was rejected. And I was determined to go to law school. So I went and I met with the dean, Orrin Evans, and I pleaded with him. I said, I promise you, I won't let you down. And he let me in. And I never worked so hard in my life as during those 4 years. And I am eternally indebted to USC for giving me that opportunity. And to think that now, almost 50 years later, I have the pleasure and privilege of serving as outside counsel to USC and seeing the work of Max turning that campus around like a tornado on the head of a yo-yo. It is absolutely remarkable for me that this could happen, and I think only in America could something like this happen, and I'm truly indebted to Max, even though he's an engineer. I want to take a moment to talk about the crisis facing our courts. You've heard a little bit this evening about the crisis facing the federal courts. 2 weeks ago, I attended a luncheon of several lawyers and judges in this community and heard the presiding judge of the court, David Wesley, who's here this evening, paint in graphic terms the crisis that we face in our state courts. This is not some academic issue of dollars and cents or something that affects maybe just a few people. It doesn't just affect those of us who are lawyers. I remember when I started practicing law, and I'm sure many of you do too, that we waited 5 years to get to trial. 5 years. And even then, the courts weren't open enough so that some judges would simply swear in a witness to start a trial, a charade, in order to let the time go past the 5 years. That's where we're headed now again today. What do you do, as David Wesley pointed out, if you have a child in a home that needs immediate judicial intervention? What do you do in a domestic violence case, in a probate case, where people's lives are turning on the resolution of the issues in the case? Where are people going to take their commercial battles? On the streets? Not today. The streets are not that safe to take fights out on the street anymore. You never know who's going to pull a gun on you. It might even be the Vice President of the United States. So we have this crisis, and we have a unique system in this country. It's called judicial supremacy. It's the courts that are the final decision maker, the courts that govern the executive branch and the legislative branch. That uniqueness was special to us in our first years of law school in constitutional law. It was driven home to me a week ago tonight in an isolated, remote airstrip in Helsinki, Finland. The temperature was in the teens and the wind was blowing, and I stepped out of the jet, the private jet, which is a pleasure to be in, even in the weather like that, and walked across the tundra with my partner Seth Gerber, and we walked into the little private airport. We were looked over by half a dozen heavily armed guards, and we were escorted into a conference room that really doesn't exist in any guidebooks or on any maps. And we sat across the table from our counterparts from Russia. And we quickly realized that this is an airport where people go to meet for meetings that never occur. We had recently received a judgment against Russia for failure to return religious writings of the Chabad movement that were seized at the time of the Bolshevik Revolution, and then again seized in part by the Nazis during World War II, taken into Germany, and then liberated by the Russians and taken back to Russia, where they sat for decades in warehouses. And when they were discovered, ultimately the Russians refused to turn them over. So the first thing that we had done was we sued in Russia, and we won, only to have the Duma set aside the judicial decision. And I thought to myself, how does a legislature set aside a judicial decision? So we sued again in the United States, in Los Angeles, federal court. Fortunately, the Russians moved to change a venue to Washington, D.C., where we drew Judge Royce Lamberth, a wonderful, hard-hitting, no-nonsense federal judge, just like the judges on our local court. Judge Lamberth entered the judgment against Russia and said, return the library. Return it now. The Russians didn't return it. So we went into court, and we got them held in contempt of court, and about a month ago, sanctions were awarded of $50,000 a day against Russia. We caught the attention of the Russian government, and so we had a little sit-down over coffee and trinkets at this airport a week ago tonight in Helsinki. From there, Seth went on to Moscow to go to the Kremlin to meet with other people from Russia. I decided that I had a long life to live, so I was not about to go to the Kremlin. And we sent Seth as our canary, and he came back yesterday. And what did we learn that's relevant to what we have here in our society, in this country? We learned that in Russia, There is no such thing as judicial supremacy. The legislature isn't supreme. It's the executive branch that's supreme. In fact, it's one man who's supreme. They were astounded when we explained to them in trying to help them understand the judgment that had been entered against them. They were astounded that a group of rabbis represented by ordinary, everyday lawyers could go to a court and obtain a judgment against a foreign nation. They could not fathom that happening in any judicial system because it would have never happened there if the president of Russia decided he didn't like the decision. He would simply strike it. And that brings the budget crisis here full circle. We have a treasured institution in our judiciary. We need to support it. We need to speak out in favor of it. And as lawyers, every time we enter into a courtroom, we need to do what I do and what I think many of you do. I give thanks for the opportunity of being in that courtroom. For me, it's an opportunity to do good, to make a change, and hopefully if it's a public impact case, I can do it. I try to pick my clients carefully. I know, and it's been said, that everybody deserves a lawyer. But we need to ask ourselves, do they deserve me? Do they deserve you? You build a law firm by the clients you turn down, not by the clients you accept. And I give gratitude to all of you, of the bench and the bar and the public at large, for giving me, for these few moments, a bloody pulpit, and above all, the opportunity to have a wonderful, loving family who is with me this evening. My wife, Marlene, of 50 years, our children of less years, Roger and Leslie, and their spouses, Shannon and John, and to the representative of our 3 grandchildren, Sophia. Now, I have a special name for her. It's Sophia Davina Grossman, the first and original. And Sophia, I hope you change your mind and decide not to go into medicine, and you go to USC Law School. Because as long as Robert and Max are there, I think that we can get you in, even if, like your grandfather, you're really not very well qualified. Thank you all.